Welcome back to In Focus. The consequences of Biden's open border policies have been painfully evident. Drug cartels feel more empowered than ever to smuggle enough poison narcotics into the country to wipe out the entire population. Under Donald Trump, these cartels were making about $500 million a year in revenue. Under Joe Biden, that $500 million has increased 26-fold to $13 billion annually. That's not an estimate from some far-right blog. That's from a study that was covered by the New York Times. 26 times the revenue of drug and human smuggling and trafficking narcotics. These are just a few of the many consequences, again, of open borders. Dangerous consequences. Americans on these border towns are being hit hardest. They're no doubt petrified, paranoid at the minimum. That would be including this Arizona rancher, George Allen Kelly, who's just recently been charged with first-degree murder after allegedly shooting a Mexican national on his property last month. The incident happened just before the 75-year-old had lunch with his wife. All of a sudden, according to his recounting of the story, a group of men armed with AK-47s were seen moving through the trees around his home, and he then heard a gunshot. So as anyone would, he grabbed his gun to protect himself, protect his wife, protect his property. He went outside to see what was happening. Per his defense, the leader of the armed group of men saw Mr. Kelly and pointed an AK-47 right at him. So Mr. Kelly, fearing for his life and safety, fired several shots from his rifle, hoping to scare them away from him, his wife, his animals, and his home. Later that day, Kelly was walking his property when he noticed a dead body, evidently one of the Mexican nationals who had apparently died from a gunshot wound. The man, Gabriel Quinn Buitama, was an illegal immigrant who has been deported several times. The defense for Kelly noted he was wearing a radio and tactical boots, which is usually a sign of a Mexican national who's involved in illegal activity like drug trafficking. So to recap, Allen Kelly says a group of armed illegal nationals pointed guns at him, and one of them might have accidentally been killed for his trouble. And because of that, Kelly is being put on trial for murder and is now being held on a $1 million bond. Is this justice? Here to help me answer that is criminal defense attorney Bob Bianchi. Bob, thank you for being here. What is the case for trying this man for murder? Even if he did accidentally shoot this Mexican national, you would think if that man was pointing a gun at him, that would be justified. First of all, $1 million bond, what is that about?
Yeah, let's start with that $1 million bond, because that's the one that's the easier one for me to handle, Addison, in this case, because this is what has happened with regard to our bails. I know we can talk a lot about bail reform and whether it's good or whether it's not. This is the problem. Bail is supposed to be there for making sure a person appears in court and that they're not a continuing danger to the community. Essentially, those are the elements of a bail, because you are presumed innocent, I believe I heard that once before, of any charges that are filed against you. And I have seen in my career as a homicide prosecutor cases where bails were at $50,000, then they go to $100,000, then they've gone to $250,000, and it's clear it's really meant for pre-trial detention, as opposed to the two factors, that is, appear in court. That's what we want to ensure, that you're not a flight risk and that you're not a continuing danger to the community. And what do you look at when you're looking at something like this? Well, the age of the individual, any prior criminal history, what are their roots in the community? This is a 75-year-old man who's led a law-abiding life, has had businesses within the community, moved to Arizona. This is not a flight risk at all. So this is merely, in my opinion, see, we could be on opposite ends of this. We can argue these bail debates left and right, but this is a judiciary, in my opinion, that's gone awry, because this bail is far in excess. He does not, and we have so many alternatives today than when I started. We have ankle monitoring, we have court monitoring, probation monitoring. This man should be released, clearly should be released, and then he can answer the charges. Second point, real quick, defending a person who is in jail on a charge like this, I can tell you as a defense lawyer now, makes the ability to represent that individual extremely difficult. Okay, so people that are in jail pending a trial have less of an ability to have an effective assistance of an attorney. So he should be released. This is an outrage to me.
Yeah, it's the whole thing just reads. It just screams injustice when you look at it, and not just the bond, but being put on trial for murder, Bob. As a defense attorney, if this all adds up, let's say his defense, the recounting of this story is 100% accurate. This man had guns pointed at him by illegal immigrants who aren't even supposed to be here or to begin with. They were trespassing on his property, pointing a gun at him. Let's say he was just firing warning shots and one accidentally struck him. Does that seem like something that he should be thrown in jail for the rest of his short rest of his life for murder over?
Okay, caveat here, if those are in fact the facts that come out during trial, because there's a very little information given by the government as to the reason for this charge. There's something about a secondary incident with shots fired later on. So we really don't know everything. But if the defense's motion that they argued in court, which are the facts you just presented to your audience, are accurate, never underestimate the power of being right. Never underestimate the power of a juror to sit in the shoes of another person and say, what would have I done under those circumstances? And clearly, if there's a group of people coming with AK-47s onto his property, shots are being fired, I don't think it comes down to this one word in the law, and I know people hate it because we really don't know what it means, whether or not his actions were reasonable. And I don't think if the facts that are being shown by his attorney right now are in truth the ones that come out during the proceeding, I can't see 12 people convicting somebody beyond a reasonable doubt for this in the least. And I always ask, Addison, you probably heard me say, when I look at a case that I'm giving a legal analyzing for you or somebody else, I always say, would I rather be the prosecutor on this case or the defense attorney? And that's presuming I want to win, which is what I want to do. And what I want to do is I want to represent this individual hands down.
Yeah, I think anyone in their right mind would. Again, when you see the story, and you mentioned we're not getting all of the details around this, Bob. They're being a little bit silent, sparing us, full transparency. Do you think that he's going to get out of, get released anytime soon? Will this bond be knocked down? How do you see this playing out for him?
I think it would, Addison. I mean, even if the government has facts that we're unaware of, that show something more nefarious that we don't know about, the bottom line still comes down to the same thing. Is he a continuing danger to the community? And is he a flight risk? Is he going to leave his entire life, uproot his family, leave his wife and not appear in court when there are lesser strict alternatives that could assure his appearance in court? I see this, especially with the public that's coming out about it, and that shouldn't influence anything, but sometimes the absurdity of something can jolt a court when they know the court of public opinion is watching what they're doing to get to the right place. And I suspect that's what's going to happen here.
Yeah, and we certainly will be watching this case, staying updated on it. Bob Bianchi from Law and Crime Network, always great to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Addison.